Alrighty, guys, it is a Wednesday edition of Ticket Talk tonight. We got Alex Kirkwood on the show. Before we get to Alex and his StubHub nightmare story, of course, TicketCon 2026 is coming to New Orleans, Louisiana Contemporary Arts Center here on July 26th, hosted by Tommy Dorfman as we reimagine ticketing. We got Azalea House, Ticket Data, Ticket Vision, all his great sponsors. Come check us out a day before World Ticket Conference. If you're into ticketing, live events, come check us out at the Contemporary Arts Center in New Orleans right after the FIFA World Cup on July 26th. But tonight, we are bringing on Alex Kirkwood, who is sold some tickets from StubHub. So Alex, like we were talking about pre-show for a couple of minutes here, is that we've helped a lot of buyers, we've helped a lot of sellers that were wronged by StubHub. And when somebody tags your story to me, I'm like, whoa, we got to get Alex on the show. And sure enough, we're able to make that happen. So Alex, in a nutshell, give us a rundown. What's going on?
Yeah, so I had 2 extra tickets for the World Cup for the U.S. opener, U.S. against Paraguay. So I sold them, it was probably 3 or 4 days before the game, and sold them. They told me transfer them to this email address, right, which is listed in that tweet right there. I was like, kind of a weird email, but transferred them. I did it via the app, and then they got back to me. They're like,
hey. For a second. So obviously it tells you to transfer to that weird email address, trustedlineservice.com. Okay.
Yeah. So I transfer via the app because that's just the easiest way to do it. That's how everybody I know has done it when you're transferring tickets for the World Cup. It's what I did last World Cup in Qatar as well. And so then I get an email pretty quick after that said, you have to go through the actual FIFA website, which means you have to wait in the line to get in the resale portal so you can just log into your account, right? So I do that as soon as I can, transfer them, and then I send an email to this person like the next day, or what I thought was a person, and I said, hey, just want to make sure you got the tickets, right? Because you haven't accepted them yet.
Right.
And then I get the probably the next day I got an email from StubHub, your ticket's been delivered. I'm like, okay, great. And it says, 3 to 8 days after the event, you'll be paid. Great.
Sure.
So then, yesterday, which was, I believe, 11 days after the event, I check in. I'm like, payment hasn't come through. I check my PayPal, nothing. So I get on support chat, ask them, hey, what's going on? They're like, yeah, we'll escalate this. And I'm not happy, right? Because if I send the tickets late, they don't give me any money, right? They also impose a penalty on me. So I'm like, why am I held to the standard and every other seller is held to the standard, but you guys can do whatever you want, right? And so then today I get an email from StubHub that says your order has been canceled. But I'm like, what's going on, right? And it still says my order complete, the sale was complete and everything. So I get on, or I call them, and they tell me, yeah, your order has been canceled. I'm like, why? And they don't tell me a reason or anything. He's like, we'll escalate this. He sends me a link. He's like, upload all the documentation you have. And so I'm like, it's going to take me a minute because I got to log into my FIFA account. I got to get all the emails and everything like that. And then I get another email that says, you've been charged $1,200. And I'm like, that's the escalation, is I get charged for tickets that I sent and you're not going to pay me. And so that's when I started diving in to this whole thing, right? Where
this is where you dive into the whole investigation. This is very important because if we don't dive into it and do these FBI style investigations, we don't know what happened. So this is the great part. Like what's going on with Grover Street Holdings LLC?
Yeah. So I initially don't know if my conclusion in my third tweet ended up being correct, because a lot of people came in and said StubHub sets up a lot of emails with that, those domains, right? But it's still weird. Why not just have an email at StubHub, seller.com or, whatever it is. And so, but I see this, right? And then I look up, it's a subsidiary of StubHub. I'm like, that's really funky. And so then I look into that and I'm like, are they running this giant scam where they buy a ticket thinking the price is going to go up? Right there, you can see it's a subsidiary of StubHub. So I'm thinking they buy it, they try to resell it for more. If they can't, and they say, oh, ticket was never delivered, not only are we not paying you, but you owe us money now.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So, like, that's your theory behind this. And, like, it is somewhat believable because they're just so sketchy. They're so sketched out. They're doing anything they can to, like, obviously overcharge sellers. Like, I mean, just to give you, like, a background before this blowing up, before the FIFA World Cup, is that we represented buyers and sellers through a law firm. It's going to court July 1. Stories similar to yours. Tickets were delivered. They claimed they weren't. Bogus, similar stories like yours. And they just like go to the links to screw the seller in this situation in any way. It's absolutely absurd.
Yeah. And so I had a bunch of people that replied and said, you know, hey, I used to work at StubHub. You know, they just set up these email addresses, right? And I'm like, okay, that's fair.
Yeah, that's besides the point. Why in the hell would they charge you for tickets that they claim that they deliver, that they charge you anyways, and you have the evidence that you deliver the tickets and you have the confirmation email. Unbelievable.
Right. And at that point, when people are defending StubHub, I'm like, well, why are we even giving them the benefit of the doubt? Right? Haven't they done enough? Just to there's so many stories out there, right? And so I'm like, okay, I'll humor this argument and I'll say, okay, they did set up these email addresses, but if that's the case, then they got my tickets. They were the ones that had my tickets, so they should pay me almost immediately after the event. And then when I did digging to find, in my case, right, to find the evidence to present to StubHub, I could see the name of the person who was on the ticket. So the buyer got the ticket because they registered it in their name. So I don't know if it's somebody, the buyer, who's being suspicious and StubHub is believing the buyer. But at the same time, I've seen buyer stories where they, you know, people said that and they actually had issues. So do they just go middleman and they tell the buyer when the buyer feels they've been screwed, oh, the seller messed up, and then vice versa, when the seller feels they've been screwed, they tell the buyer messed up? I don't know where I'm landing on my final theory, because there's a few different, you know, possible routes that you know, how we arrived at that conclusion, or a conclusion. Right. But one way or the other, they're screwing somebody.
Right. They're obviously, I mean, screwing you in this situation where you're 100% honest. You have the evidence. Like, there's like not even a question of, even if the buyer did question you, you have the evidence. You transfer the tickets. Like Eric Baker makes, the CEO of StubHub, every time a seller does bust, he does make 200% of that order. So he loves when these situations bust, or he creates any conspiracy theory of a seller busting tickets. We have hundreds of stories of evidence like that. And that's obviously what happened in your case. So what did support tell you when you obviously explained what went on? Are they giving you the runaround? What's going on when you're talking to support right now?
Yeah, their big thing. I think they just tell everyone to say we've escalated this, right? And I'm like, I'm not taking that for an answer, because last time you guys escalated it, and it ended with me being charged and not getting paid, right? So I haven't heard back from when I presented the evidence where I showed these tickets. I purchased these tickets from FIFA. I transferred them. You guys told me they were delivered. I can see whose name ended up on the ticket. I don't know that person's name, right? Like, it's, I sent like 5 different things. And even yesterday when I was talking to support, I was asking them what's going on. And they're like, I can see that you delivered the tickets. And then all of a sudden today, they flip flop and say, oh, you never, they never even said like you didn't deliver them.
Who are you talking to? Are you talking to somebody in the Philippines or Asia? Or one of those
exactly.
Yeah. So they don't know what's going on. Yeah.
Zero idea. Yeah.
Right. Gotcha. No, I mean, absolutely absurd. I mean, you get the runaround, you get somebody say, oh, we saw you deliver. The next call, you speak to somebody in the sweatshop internationally. They say, oh, you didn't deliver the ticket. So they have no idea what the hell is going on. So no, thank you for sharing, Kirk. We'll escalate this to our government contact at StubHub and see if he can take care of it. If that doesn't work and we go through some hoops, we do have legal options. So what we're doing, July 1st, actually a week from today, we're representing 160 buyers and sellers through an arbitration through a law firm we partnered with. We're probably going to start a round 2 claim round shortly after that, or following the FIFA World Cup here in mid to late July. So we'll keep posted. We're going to make sure you got your payment, not refund. You're obviously owed the payment for the sale and not a crazy fine whatsoever. And we'll make sure it happens. And we appreciate you bringing this to our attention, or whoever brought this to my attention. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you to you guys. Thank you to that person. Funny enough, when I tweeted it out after about 20 minutes, I was like, I don't like to be complaining on Twitter. I was like, I'm just going to delete this. And then all of a sudden, I think you got tagged shortly after that. And I saw that. I was like, all right, this guy looks like he's knowledgeable about this. I'll talk to him. So yeah, appreciate I'm glad whoever it was who tagged you. Thank you very much. And thank you guys for your help and kind of getting the story out there. Just not for me necessarily, but just so people stop using StubHub, right?
They got to stop getting people off the platform, and they got to literally, we got to shut them down, or they got to have a full 180 in leadership. They got to get Eric Baker out of there, and they got to run a legitimate secondary marketplace. Otherwise, they need to go bye-bye and shut down. And we're making that happen. I mean, folks like you who share your story. I mean, that's what happens when you share your story. It gets out. I get tagged. I try to get as many people on the show as possible, and we obviously follow through. You're not just coming on the show, Alex. We're going to make sure you get your payment and so forth, whether it's obviously through StubHub, which is easier process, or if we have to go through the arbitration process, which is a free service for all victims of StubHub buyers and sellers. So we'll make sure we stay in touch with you, and thanks for coming on.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Scott. Have a good one.
Thanks, Alex. Stay in touch.